The American people, the big losers in the first debate. That is the focus of tonight's preamble. Now, amidst the interruptions, disorganized structure, and slanted questions, the American people lost out on what was arguably the most anticipated debate in U.S. history. The only criticism I have for the president is that he had a great story to tell about his record. Those few people who were undecided in our nation would have benefited greatly from hearing that story. I wished his debate strategy had included more ways for him to get that message out. Instead, the president was forced to draw attention to Beijing Biden's abysmal record because Chris Wallace sure as hell wasn't going to do it. Speaking of which, on debate night, Biden admitted to the nation that a vote for him is a vote to raise your taxes.
Look, the tax code that made him, put him in a position that he pays less tax than a school teacher makes, on the money a school teacher makes, is because of him he says he's smart because he can take advantage of the tax code. And he does take advantage of the tax code. That's why I'm going to eliminate the Trump tax cuts.
To eliminate those. Now, just so we're clear, even the New York Times had to admit the success of the Trump tax cuts. The headline was clear in and of itself. Because of President Trump, most Americans got a tax cut. If we're unlucky enough to be burdened with Biden, most Americans will get a tax increase. We also learned that Beijing Biden thinks he is the Democrat Party. Laughingly, he blamed President Trump for the current economic recession.
He is not for any help for people needing health care because he, in fact, already has cost 10 million people their health care that they had from their employers because of his recession.
Did you guys get that? Biden wants to blame a fellow American rather than those who are responsible for our current economic woes, the communist Chinese government. Democrats, including their leader Biden, refuse to hold China accountable for their lies and intentional spread of the China virus. That virus has led to our current economic calamity and the deaths of over 200,000 Americans. That number of deaths includes Democrat voters. And Democrats refuse to condemn their constituents' killers. But this same party has sat silently while BLM and Antifa have killed, beaten, looted, and burned their way through our streets. So nobody is surprised that Democrats would go soft on China. It is true that our economy is struggling to recover, but Biden nor Chris Wallace would acknowledge that our economy is faring far better than any other country around the globe because of President Trump's policies that were put in place before the needless pandemic. At one point during the Chris Wallace fiasco, Biden accused President Trump of not telling the truth when Trump said that no law enforcement organizations are supporting Biden. So the president asked a simple question.
He's talking about defunding the police.
That is not true.
He doesn't have any law support.
Look,
he has no law enforcement support.
That's not true.
Almost nothing.
Look.
Oh, really? Who do you have? Name one group that supports you. Name one group that came out and supported you. Go ahead. Think. We have time.
We don't have time to do anything.
No, think about it. Name one law enforcement group that came out and supported you.
Gentlemen, I think I'm going to take back the moderator's role, and I want to get to another subject.
Yes, rescuing Biden. Now, if Chris Wallace had been a fair moderator, he would have asked Biden, since he claimed that Trump was being untruthful, to name one law enforcement group who was supporting him. But sensing Biden was in trouble, Chris Wallace moved the debate along. He did this several times during the debate. Chris Wallace only had one challenging question for Biden in the entire debate, a question about violence in Democrat-run cities.
Earlier tonight, you said that you are the Democratic Party right now. Have you ever called the Democratic mayor of Portland or the Democratic governor of Oregon and said, hey, you got to stop this, bring in the National Guard, do whatever it takes, but you stop the days and months of violence in Portland?
I don't hold public office now. I am a former vice president.
You had never called for the leaders in Portland and in Oregon to call and bring in the National Guard and knock off 100 days of riots.
They can, in fact, take care of it if he just stay out of the way.
Okay, that is in fact a lie. Mr. Trump has only sent in federal law enforcement when requested or if federal property was at risk. Can you believe that Biden actually tried to blame Trump for the failure of state and local Democrat socialists? Of course, Wallace allowed the lie to stand. Then there was Biden's refusal to answer a question. Apparently, this is a brand new Democrat debate rule, a rule being enforced by Fox News Sunday's Chris Wallace and the Commission on Presidential Debates. The rule is Democrat candidates for president can refuse to answer questions on how they will govern.
My question to you is, you have refused in the past to talk about it. Are you willing to tell the American people tonight whether or not you will support either ending the filibuster or packing the court?
Whatever position I take on that, that'll become the issue. The issue is the American people should speak. You should go out and vote. You're in voting now. Vote and let your senators know how strongly you feel. Vote now.
Are you gonna pack the
Make
court?
sure you, in fact, let people know you're a senator. I'm not going to answer the question
Why wouldn't you answer that
because
question?
the question is
Radical left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe?
Where is that list, Joe? Why won't Beijing Biden come clean about the anti-Americans that he will appoint to the bench? Why won't he reveal the names of Democrats who will erode our protections under the Constitution? And how is it that Trump gets in front of every left-wing biased hack, for better or worse, answers their questions, but Democrats get to stomp their feet and say, I won't answer that question. And then the debate moves on. And that leads me to the debate moderator, Fox News Sunday's Chris Wallace. We were concerned about Wallace, a registered Democrat, and his hard left turn in recent months. We think that's why the biased Commission on Presidential Debates chose him and other moderators. Liberal bias is apparently the new fair and balanced. Mr. Wallace said that his goal was to have America not even remember that he was there. Well, he failed on that score. On man-made global warming, the Paris Climate Accords, Obamacare, and extremist groups, Chris Wallace adopted the left-wing perspective and assumptions in formulating his questions. He also ignored Biden's alleged corruption and that of his family from the previous administration. That is, by the way, a subject that is 100% relevant to gauge how Biden would govern if America was cursed to have him in the Oval Office. Mr. Wallace asked the president to once again denounce white supremacists and racism while not confronting Biden on his myriad racist statements that he has made in this campaign alone. Mr. Wallace clamped down on the president when he interrupted Biden, but allowed Biden to interrupt Trump at will. In fact, one estimate calculated Chris Wallace stopped Trump interruptions 5 times more than he stopped Biden's interruptions. We feared that this debate would be a 2-on-1 affair, and it was. We were not the only ones who noticed this. President Trump alluded to this disadvantage early on in the debate.
You, in the course of these 4 years, have never come up with a comprehensive plan to replace Obamacare, and just this last Thursday, you signed a largely symbolic executive order to protect people with pre-existing conditions 5 days before this debate. So my question, sir, is what is the Trump health care plan?
Right. Well, first of all, I guess I'm debating you, not him, but that's okay. I'm not surprised.
President was not alone. Stephen Miller observing on Twitter that Chris Wallace laughing along with Biden isn't a good look. Fox News' Greg Gutfeld agreed, tweeting, quote, that was not good. Fox News alum Bill O'Reilly opined Chris Wallace doesn't have the facts at his command about the Ukraine payments made to Biden's son that Trump brought up. Big mistake by Mr. Wallace. Conservative genius Ben Shapiro noting Chris Wallace, over the course of the night, has moved from moderator to debater. And last but certainly not least, as myriad other conservatives blasted Chris Wallace and his obvious liberal bias, Candace Owens noted how Chris Wallace protected left-wingers who are committing violence in America by saying, quote, unbelievable. Every person in America knows these riots are being orchestrated by Black Lives Matter and Antifa. Chris Wallace asked the president to condemn white supremacists, but did not think to ask Joe Biden to condemn Antifa or BLM. Folks, as a conservative, I am sick and tired of our side having to put up with moderators who automatically put us at a disadvantage in every election cycle. I am not saying this out of hubris, but I or any other host or anchor on Newsmax could have conducted a fairer debate than Chris Wallace did. Those of us who are professed conservatives understand both sides of the issue. Chris Wallace holds conservatives in contempt, so he doesn't bother to bring up our objections to liberal policies in a crucial debate. I don't think he does this out of malice, but out of ignorance and arrogance. He doesn't respect conservatives or our points of view, so he doesn't even bother to learn them. We conservatives, out of necessity, have to know all sides. Unless and until the Commission on Presidential Debates can remove their institutionalized bias, the GOP should withdraw its support and participation. Or at least we should all insist that the Commission on Presidential Debates put out their, quote, "We love liberals" sign before each debate.